I mean a face melter, because the shorts are going to get scorched.
Yep.
And the amount of shorts in crypto is massive. In November, people don't talk about this enough. In November, when the SEC decided not to approve a spot ETF and approved a futures ETF,
Right.
there was method in their madness. That was not a random decision, right? What that did is the same thing that when they approved gold futures or oil futures, when you can create paper commodities instead of physical. Like in the old days, if I want to sell you a barrel of oil, I actually had to have a barrel of oil to deliver to you. I
Right.
couldn't just make up a paper contract and say, yeah, you buy this barrel of oil and wink, wink, I'll get it if we actually settle. But, we'll just settle up before I have to deliver, and we'll just, we'll settle up the accounts. Well, what happens invariably is people say, oh, that's an easy trade. I'll just do that. And they create too many paper commodities and the price falls. And so look at gold prices have been spoofed for years because of this. Oil prices have their boom and bust cycle because of it. We got to $140 and we went to $26. Then we went to $120. Now we're back to $80. And I think the same thing's happening in Bitcoin is the banks are short the heck out of this because they're the other side of BITO and BTF that are long futures because someone's got to be short. And, speculators are just the opposite of hedgers. Right? They're a necessary part of markets, right. But they can also manipulate markets if they have more capital than the hedgers. And in this case, the banks clearly have more capital than the providers. And so I believe there's downward pressure. And you can see it if you look at the Bitcoin chart off the bottom on June 13th. We made a nice, beautiful accumulation pattern, higher lows, higher highs, 17, 18, 19, 20. Then we started hitting 22, 23. And then we'd spike up. Like if you look at July and August, we'd hit 24K over and over. And bam, there were sellers. I mean, just massive sellers. And it was an ugly looking chart. I mean, it was a hugely distributive chart. And so then we had the correction back down to 20. And now we're stuck in this 1920 zone. We're starting to see more accumulation. In fact, today was a good day. It's good we're recording it today. We made kind of a second double bottom. People say that doesn't exist, right? Triple bottoms don't exist. Well, we made a bottom in June, and then we made a second bottom in August on lower volume. That's usually a good sign. Then we started to rally, but then we rolled over again on all this fear of higher rates. But this morning, and it tells me that he's going to hike less than people think, because someone always knows before the actual stuff happens.
Sure.
It's funny how that works. So my guess is it'll likely be 75. It could be as low as 50, but it's likely 75 because they put in people's brains that 100 was possible.
Yeah.
And if you do 75 when people are thinking 100 is possible, oh, that's a win. Well, but 2 weeks ago you thought 75 was high. So it's all about this gamesmanship. And so if that does happen, I think we could get a little ripper. If they were to do 50, it'd be a face melter. Well, great question. So we're in spring, and spring, 9-ish months, right? If you think about the 4-year cycle, it's broken up into 3 pieces, about 15 months, 9 months, 15 months, 9 months, winter, spring, summer, and fall. And, winter is the downdraft. Spring is kind of the consolidation. Summer is liftoff. And then fall is kind of that parabolic craziness, right? That last where all the leveraged speculators and the gamblers come in and we go way above fair value to set up for the new winter. And so spring is more likely bouncing around with an upward bias. So, when I say a face melter, I mean, we could go from 1920 back to 25 in a hurry, right? Yeah. It's a, 25% move, but it would happen fast.
Got it.
Then we probably consolidate a little more. And it's probably sometime, I'm going to call it March next year, when we get into summer, and then we start heading back for new highs. And, by the end of next year, right in anticipation of the next halving, I think we could see a really big FOMO move. Like all the institutions that, like, I'm going to do a dinner tomorrow night and a speech on Friday to a board of a big pension. And it's called Get Off Zero, right? They have zero exposure. They're going to get off zero. How much are they going to do? I don't know. But 83% of pensions still have no exposure. So as they go from 83% to 73% to 63%, that's 20% of pensions. We're talking trillions of dollars. If they just put in 10 basis points, that would cause a really interesting supply demand move. And the thing people forget about Bitcoin in particular, it's a very illiquid market, right? The hodlers control the vast majority of coins, and they're not selling at any price. They're not buying it at any price. In fact, some of them probably lost their keys. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I mean, like the Satoshi wallet. I mean, that probably, I'll say it, I don't think it'll ever move, right? I believe that it was a multi-sig and that one of the people's passed, maybe two, and that it'll never move. But as Satoshi himself, they said, consider it a donation to the rest of the community when, coins get lost or stolen. Again, really, really important points. And, data is way more important than narratives, right? And, one of the problems, human beings are wired in a funny way, right? We tend to form beliefs backwards. So the way we normally work is we're given our belief by our parents, by the media, by our friends, by conventional wisdom. And then we gather data that supports our view and reject all data that's against our view. We just pretend it's not there. And we should actually do the opposite, right? We should actually gather data about an idea, sit on it, think about it, ruminate, and then form a belief. Rather than, being convinced that you're right and everyone else is wrong, how about you consider all sides of an issue and then think about it and say, yes, I believe this.